Usually, most people, when they go through like a job loss, or poverty, or bankruptcy, or foreclosure, or sickness, loss, basically loss, then they think this is a tough test. But when life is good, you get a job, you get a promotion, you have a lot of savings, business is good, it's growing, the house is paid off, cars have been paid off, etc., etc. When finances are good, you think this is good. That's a test, but this is, I made it, I passed the test. And sometimes in the back of the corrupt mind, because the previous ayah did talk about fasad, that they increase corruption, a kind of corruption that even takes place inside the mind, is that the more you have in this dunya, maybe it's because Allah loves you more. So the more you have is a sign of the more Allah loves you, which is actually a big, big corruption. Allah gave some very, very bad people a lot of wealth. Allah gave Fir'aun a lot. Allah gave Qarun a lot. And some of these people had a lot of prestige too. They had a lot of prestige. People listened to them. People gave nobility to them. Some of the worst, most humiliated of the kuffar were the leaders of Quraysh. But as far as the Quraysh are concerned, are they humiliated or honorable? They're honorable. But who gave them that prestige and that honor? Allah did too, right? So the same things that you would think are there because Allah blessed me are actually, in the end, what is the reality of them? They are a difficult test. Now what makes this test difficult? The other test is difficult because obviously it's tough on you. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's health, maybe it's loss of family, etc. Those are difficult tests. You know what makes this test difficult? It's very hard to actually realize it's a test. That's what makes this difficult. That's why most people fail this test. That test people fail because of lack of sabr, they can't hold themselves, etc., etc. Or they complain to Allah, or they become ungrateful to Allah. This test because you forget that the fact that it's a test. But now this person, something very strange Allah Azza wa Jal puts in his, tells us that he says, فَيَقُول, then he says, what does he say? رَبِّي أَكْرَمًا. And يَقُول is mudari', it's the present tense form. And before it there's a fa, which means as a result of this honoring and these amazing luxuries and amenities and blessings that Allah has showered this person with, he over and over, on occasion, he tends to say. He doesn't say just once. يَقُولُ, it would have been فَقَالَ. In Jumla Shartiyya you can use Madi and Mudari'. But here what we find is فَيَقُولُ. In other words, he says on occasion. Every time he finds an occasion, he says something. What does he say? He says, رَبِّي أَكْرَمًا. It is in fact my Lord who has honored me. He's honored me. Now, how many things did Allah do for him? First, note this. How many things did Allah do for him? He gave him prestige, and He showered him in blessings. But when he speaks, what did he speak about? He says, my Lord has honored me, but did he make any mention of the blessings? You see? So the first problem we note is that Allah gave, but He, even on His mouth, didn't even come mention of everything Allah gave. Right? He didn't even acknowledge that Allah has also blessed me with a lot of favor and showered me up with a lot of blessings. All He mentions is this honor is God-given. And in this, there's actually a profound, profound reality that if you study the history of the world, you will find. The most corrupt people that had power in the past, like the runners of false religions and kings, you know what part of their belief was? That God honored them with that power. That they're not in that position for any other reason, but they have divine help. God is on their side somehow. So they considered themselves above the rest of the people, because by saying Rabbi Akraman, it's yadullu ala ghayr al-ithbat ala ghayr al-fa'il. My Lord has in fact honored me like He has not honored anyone else. He thinks of me as special. And since I'm special, naturally, as a result, I deserve all these favors. So He doesn't even mention the favors because He feels He's entitled to them. And this actually at the very individual level is a very sick disease. The one who gets so much from Allah starts believing that because Allah has honored him specially, that he's entitled to it. Somehow he's elite over the others. So even though he mentioned his Lord, he said Rabbi, he did mention his Lord, but even the mention of the Lord here is out of arrogance. It's not out of humility. So he says, Rabbi Akraman, oh my Lord has honored me. And now this same person, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَبْتَلَاهُ. Why here? What this is a continuation. The ataf is a continuation. So it's the same human being. If and when we thoroughly test him again. How do we test him this time? فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. Actually, I forgot to mention one thing. I'll mention at the end of this ayah for both, because it's the same for both ayat. فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, how it's translated is, He restricts the provision from him, or He lessens the provision from him, or He constrains the provision from Him. When we test Him and we exact the calculation for His provision, in other words, when he loses his wealth, it is part of the rizq of Allah. When he had a lot of money, it was written for him. When he lost most of that money, that was also written for him. Allah didn't take anything away or give anything that wasn't already. إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مِّن قَبْلِ أَن نَبْرَأَهَا, as He says in Surah Al-Hadid. Except that it's already in a book that's already been declared. We've already elaborated, right? So this was part of qadr. Before Allah even tells us what He says, He tells us what we're supposed to be thinking. The rizq that comes our way is not some special, exception to the rule. This was written for us, and the rizq that leaves us is also part of what was not written for us. That morsel of food was not meant to go in our mouth. So فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ. That's how Allah says He takes His wealth away. He calculates, He exacts the calculation for him. Now He says, فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. Then He says, it is my Lord who has, and the word ahanan from ihana, which means to actually make an effort to humiliate someone out of animosity against them. So what this person is saying is, my Lord has humiliated me, but in parentheses it means it is because He hates me, or somehow He's so angry at me for something apparently I can't figure out what it is. I don't know why He's doing this to me. That sort of attitude. That entire attitude is captured when He says, ahanan. Similarly, there's a person who's bent upon complaining, Allah has humiliated me. He said, no, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't talk like that about Allah Azza wa Jal. It's a test from, no, I don't know, bro. You don't understand. He's humiliated me. He's made up his mind. This person has made up his mind out of sheer frustration. So what did they associate honor with? When people respect you and when people give you blessings. By the way, the next ayah did not talk about ikram, and it didn't talk about the na'im. It didn't talk about honoring or giving blessings. It talked about rizq. What we learned from that is, what is our rizq? It's two things. It's all the physical blessings Allah gives us, and also the honor. The respect that people show us is also part of the rizq, is also part of the provision. And so when that is taken away, for this person and the people around him apparently, the only thing that makes you respectable is your wealth. And when you don't have wealth, you're not respectable. So he feels humiliated when he doesn't have wealth. Actually our kids start thinking like that. We're actually starting to train our kids subconsciously even to think like that. So if they dress a certain way, if they don't wear certain brand names, if they wear a certain kind of simple shoe as opposed to an elaborate shoe, if they don't get that book bag that everybody else got, right? If they don't have that video game system, they only have the outdated older one. If you're, I said this last time, if your parents drive an older car, then the teenage kids will ask you to, or even the elementary school, they'll ask you to drop you off around the corner. Like don't drop me off in front of the school, because that's a humiliation. It's a kind of humiliation. Right? What do they associate honor and humiliation with? With what you own. Similarly, I just live in an apartment, I don't own a home. I'm not going to invite anybody because it's so embarrassing. Right? Or the wife will say, why would you want to invite someone to our little studio apartment? It's so embarrassing. Right? What are we associating honor and humiliation with? What we own. And these are things we say to each other all the time. This is not some, abstract, these kuffar in Quraysh were so evil. This is what we do all the time. Muslims do this all the time. We talk like this all the time, right? So here Allah is teaching us, this is the character of insan. Now insan, Allah didn't say kafir, He said insan, first of all, which means all human beings tend to have this attitude. The other thing is we should never forget the root origin of the word insan. Like for example, Al-Farra comments, nasiya. It comes from nasiya, he forgot. He forgot where he came from. He forgot what the truth is. He forgot what his master is. He forgot, even if he remembers his master, he forgot what the relationship with his master is supposed to be. You and I aren't entitled to anything if He's our master. All of His things are gifts. When He gives them, it's His gift. When He doesn't give them, it wasn't ours to begin with. No room to complain. Now Allah says, now the human being will be informed. What did he make a priority out of? And what did he put on the back burner? That's the translation I'll prefer here. Bima qaddama, what did he give priority to? What took taqdeem for him? What was priority number one? What took precedence? وَمَا أَخَّرَ, and what could wait? What were the things that you put on the back burner? The crime of the human being isn't necessarily that he doesn't do a good deed. The human being says, it can wait. I can do it later. The crime of the human being isn't necessarily that he doesn't leave sin. He says, I'll leave it later. Or, let me do what I want right now. I'll do that later. I have time. Taqdeem and ta'khir, not the grammar one, the one for life. Human beings will be thoroughly informed. What were your priorities? What did you put ahead?
What came first for you? What came later for you? بِمَا قَدَّمَ وَأَخَّرَ. The other meaning of قَدَّمَ وَأَخَّرَ in Tafseer Juz Amma I mentioned also, قَدَّمَ also means what you've sent forward. You've done deeds, you've done works, and every one of them are waiting for you. Our deeds are waiting for us. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ رَهِينَ. You've sent collateral over. You've sent deeds over for processing. And you're going to meet those deeds on Judgment Day. I don't meet my deeds now, I just do them now. I will meet them then. وَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا. They're going to be standing face to face in front of their salats. If your salat was lousy, you'll be standing in front of a lousy salat, staring right at you. That's what it's going to be. If you were lying, cheating, backbiting, angry, arrogant, condescending, whatever you were, you'll be looking right at you in the face. And then you're going to say, مَالِ هَذَا الْكِتَابِ. That's the reality of it. بِمَا قَدَّمَ وَأَخَّرَ. What did he make a priority out of? What did he put on the back burner? This is one of those life-transforming ayat. The human being will be thoroughly informed. This was your priority. This is what you spent time on. This is what you did with your free time. This is what you thought can wait. You had all these dreams. I want to memorize the Qur'an. What did you do for it? How many seasons of how many TV shows did you watch instead? That was a priority for you. What you wanted to memorize? Oh, but it can wait though. Inshallah, one day, when my heart is purified, then I shall start. You know? بِمَا قَدَّمَ وَأَخَّرَ بَلِ الْإِنسَانِ. No. Yes, on that day the human being will be given thorough news, but it's not like the human being's blind now. Rather, the case is that the human being, عَلَى نَفْسِهِ, against his own self, basira, is fully insightful. There is one person that knows so much about you, and nobody else knows about you. And besides Allah, and that's you. You have an insight into who you are, what your flaws are, what your limitations are, what your capabilities are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what opportunities you avail, what opportunities you get lazy about. You know that about yourself more than anybody else. And you and I decide to lie to ourselves. We just decide we're not going to have an honest conversation with ourselves, and about ourselves with Allah. We don't want to have that honest conversation. For some people, all they want at the end of their life, what is success to them? Maybe I'll own a house. That's success for them. Maybe if I have this much money, that means I have success. Maybe if I got married to this one or that one, maybe that means I have success. But I go back to what I started with. There are some people who are happy with doing just the minimum. Just the minimum. But I'm here to tell you, the young people in the audience today, Allah has blessed you, and I'm telling you, He expects great things from you. He does not expect the minimum from you. There are so many Muslims, the only thing left of Islam is their name. That's the only thing left. They don't care about salat, they don't care about halal and haram. They're far from this deen. What can I do to further this deen? What can I do I shouldn't just be happy that so many people come and attend Jumu'ah. Does that mean everybody's heart is clean? Does that mean that we don't need any more reminder? Is that what that means? Or are there evils in our society? Are there youth that are turning towards drugs? Are there young people that are just living their life for no purpose? All they do is play video games and watch movies and go to sleep. And if you ask them for a purpose, they say, I want to graduate and get a job. Is that a goal? Get a job? Allah gave us such higher goals. Your job itself is a means to a higher end. But you know what? We are living in strange times. The people who need the da'wah the most today are the Muslims themselves. But even if you get a good job, but you don't do your job. You got the job, but you show up late every day. You got the job, but you don't finish any projects. You're sitting there at the desk wasting your time. You're going to lose that job. Somebody else will come and do it for you. You will not keep that job even if you qualified. Qualifications are not enough. You have to do the work. Allah Azza wa Jal is giving all of us, He's already qualified us. We are people of La ilaha illallah. We are already qualified. But that doesn't mean we're doing the work. If we don't do the work, if we don't concern ourselves, if we don't care, then you know what's going to happen. إِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالَكُمْ. You turn away and Allah will replace you with a nation other than yourselves. and they will not be like you. They will not be lazy like you. And those are when young Muslim people have real iman. When young Muslims have real strength in their belief, then they have the power to change the world. They have the power to make the world a better place. But when young Muslim people don't have real iman, they don't have real conviction, then they are a waste of space. They are a waste of society, a waste of a generation. The only thing in their life, the most important thing in their life is when is the next movie coming out. The most important thing is when is the next iPhone coming out. The next most important thing is, man, I wish I had that car. That's it. Your life doesn't go any further than that. My teacher used to say that Islam is similar to climbing a mountain. You know, when you're climbing a mountain, you throw a hook and you climb. If you throw a hook not very high, then you will only reach that much. You can't reach any further. If your goal is money, if your goal is a six-pack, if your goal is a car, if your goal is a promotion, if your goal is entertainment, if your goal is girls, whatever your goal is, then you're only going to get that. You won't get anything else. But if your goal is something higher, to serve something more than yourself, you don't live a selfish life. You want to live for the sake of Allah and for the benefit of others. That's how you want to live. Then you will benefit yourself definitely, but you will be honored in the eyes of Allah because you set your goal much higher. Our deen in this beautiful ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal describes it, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي. This is my path. A sabil is a path. And you know what? Allah did not say in this ayah, قُلْ هَذَا دِينِي. This is my deen. Tell them this is my religion. This is my Islam. This is my truth. This is my book. He didn't describe it with any other language except this is my path. And all of you know a path is like a journey. So Islam itself is being described as a journey in this ayah. What does that mean? That means in any journey you have to make progress, right? So even if you take one step, you are more closer to your destination than the day before or the step before. Every single moment you are making progress in a journey. And in this ayah, Allah's Messenger says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this religion of mine and this religion of yours and ours, Islam, is a journey. Which means I am supposed to do something more for this deen than I did yesterday. And I'm supposed to do more tomorrow and more tomorrow and more tomorrow. I'm supposed to go further.